are in terms of crime reduction in New York City. In a moment, you'll hear from the mayor, and then Chief of Crime Control Strategies, Lori Pollack, will go over our November crime figures. I'll tell you that in our ongoing mission to further reduce crime and keep all New Yorkers safe, NYPD's highly effective targeted approach towards the real drivers of violence and disorder continue to yield very positive results. And increasingly, our efforts are supported by the full and willing partnerships of our communities, which not only make our city safer, it makes people we serve feel safer too. And as I always say, there is a distinction there. Right up front, I want to make sure I wish everyone who is celebrating a very happy Hanukkah. Last night, we lit the menorah down in the lobby here at police headquarters. We did it in conjunction with the NYPD Shamrim Society, which was founded in 1924, making it the oldest Jewish fraternal law enforcement organization in the United States. And it's holidays like Hanukkah and longstanding NYPD traditions like the menorah lighting that remind us of the incredible diversity of our police department and of our great city. And we recognize how that diversity brings us all closer and ultimately makes us stronger. Last night, during the ceremony, I said we were thinking of the 11 worshipers killed in the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh in October, about how their assailant fired indiscriminately into the crowd, targeting his victims simply because of their faith. That assault unfolded against the backdrop of a surge in hate-related speech and crime across America. Here in New York, too, we're addressing an increase in bias incidents, many of them against members of our Jewish community. Let me be clear. There is no place in civil society for such divisiveness and hate. The increased reports of criminal mischief, harassment, or assault here in the 5 boroughs concern us a great deal. None of it will ever be tolerated in New York City. I can tell you that our NYPD investigators, who make up the best and most robust hate crime task force in the nation, headed by Deputy Inspector Mark Molinari, they fully investigate every single complaint. And together, through a lens of trust and strength, I know we'll see these occurrences decrease. So in keeping with the theme, we will use Hanukkah's message of survival to reinforce our solidarity. And if anyone in this city of 8.6 million people knows of someone who has committed an act of hate against an individual or group, who has any information that can help us in our investigation, we want you to reach out to the NYPD and make sure we get a chance to fully investigate it. It's about sharing responsibility for public safety and moving forward as one unified New York City. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner, I want to thank you for everything you just said. I want to also join in wishing everyone a happy Hanukkah and reminding everyone of the extraordinary work the NYPD does to protect people of all faiths in this city. And it's really something we should be very, very proud of. The attacks we've seen, most painfully the attack in Pittsburgh, remind us there is a lot of anti-Semitism in the world and we have to confront it. And one of the most important things we can do is show that the full weight of our government is there to protect the Jewish community, just as we have protected communities of other faiths when they're under attack. I want to believe that this era of hate being tolerated will soon end. But in the meantime, we have a job to do to show people the kind of vigorous response that's needed, and the NYPD has done an outstanding job. So thank you, Commissioner, to you and to all the men and women of the NYPD. As we talk about the month of November, I want to thank and congratulate all the leaders of the NYPD here in the room, because the NYPD has done it again, has once again done what a lot of people thought was impossible. You looked at last year, 2017, a record-setting year for lower crime. NYPD is starting to surpass even the record set in 2017. Take it against the backdrop of what has been done over these last years. 5 years ago, we said we would end the era of stop and frisk. If you compare 2017, the year 2017, to 4 years earlier, stop and frisk down 94% and crime down. We said that we could get a lot done with fewer arrests. In 2017, 100,000 fewer arrests in 2013, and crime went down. We see it over and over again, and I want to particularly note that one of the things that marked 2017 as an extraordinary year, a memorable year, an unbelievable year, was that for the first time since the 1950s, the NYPD was able to get homicides below 300. Well, as of midnight last night, NYPD's good work has paid off again. We are exactly at the same number we were on the same day last year. We are exactly on pace to repeat last year's extraordinary achievement, and that's something to celebrate. Chief Pollack's going to go into the details, but just looking at November 2018 versus November 2017, most important top lines. Major crimes down 5%. That month-to-month comparison, one year to the next, murder down 25%. These are further indicators that this police force just keeps getting better and keeps deepening the relationship with the community, which is providing the partnership, the information, the support the NYPD needs to get the job done. So there's a lot here to celebrate. I've said that neighborhood policing has been crucial. It's being proven more and more all the time. We know we're the safest big city in America. I want us to be the fairest big city in America. These facts, the report that we're getting on the month of November, prove that those two concepts are going together more and more. Safety and fairness are walking hand in hand in New York City. Just a few words in Spanish. El mes pasado, el NYPD batió sus propios récords al mejorar aún más la seguridad en la ciudad grande más segura del país. El plan de vigilancia vecinal está creando confianza entre los policías y las comunidades. Una relación cada día más fuerte y mejor. With that, I want to turn to Chief Pollack, who'll go into the details about the month of November.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our overall crime is down 5% for November. November set a new low for total index crime with a reduction of over 400 crimes, beating the previous low set in 2017. All 5 boroughs have seen a reduction in overall crime. Our November murders are down 5, 15 versus 20, a reduction of 25%. This November with 15 is now the lowest November on record. 15 murders tied with February for the lowest month this year. The only time there has been a month with fewer murders was also a February in 2012 when we recorded 12. 15 is the lowest number of murders recorded in any month with 30 days or more. August of 2017 is now the second lowest when we recorded 17 murders. Brooklyn finished November 7 versus 8, Queens 4 versus 4, the Bronx 3 versus 5, Manhattan and Staten Island recorded no murders in November. Shootings in November were up by 8, 56 versus 48, or 17%. 56 is the second lowest November on record. November 2017 with 48 was the lowest, and after last year, the next lowest was November 2016 with 65 shootings. Brooklyn accounted for 48% of November shootings, 27 versus 13, an increase of 14. The Bronx had an increase of 5 shootings, 15 versus 10. Manhattan was down 1, 8 versus 9. Queens finished down 8 for November, 6 versus 14. Staten Island recorded no shootings in November compared with 2 last year. Rapes this November were up 16, 141 versus 125, a 13% increase. 18 of the 141 rapes occurred prior to 2018, which is a 12.8 percentage. November 2017, we saw a similar trend of 11.2, or 14, that were reported prior to last year, 14 of 125. Robbery is down this November, 11.8%. That's 1,057 versus 1,199, a decrease of 142 robberies, a record low for any November. Felony assault, down 9%, 1,472 versus 1,481, down 9%. Burglary, 895 versus 1,063, down almost 16%. The first November we have come in below 1,000 burglaries. Grand larceny, 3,665 versus 3,733, a decrease of 68 crimes, or 1.8% down. Grand larceny auto set a new record for November, 447 versus 473, a decrease of 5.5%. Transit crime overall is up slightly, 15 crimes or 6.2%, 257 versus 242. Housing overall crime down 9.5%, 363 versus 401, a decrease of 38 crimes. To recap, we have seen reductions this November in 6 of the 7 major categories, and this, like the mayor said, is with 22% fewer arrests this November, a decrease of almost 5,000 arrests. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Lori. Just on topic on crime? Questions? James? Thank you, hand halfway up.
Appreciate that. Is there any new information about this brutal beating in the Bronx?
Let's talk about, we're going to get to, Dermot's going to talk about individual crimes. All right, but just anything about the November crime numbers or the year-to-date crime numbers in the back row?
Down by borough.
Is that part of what we release?
Yeah, we do have that on the release.
Okay.
Okay.
Tony?
Chief Pollack, there seems to be still a problem with homicides in the Bronx and I think Queens North. Can you address that? There seems to be sort of a nettlesome problem in those two sectors.
Oh, the Bronx is up for the year, 14. They have seen a decrease, obviously, this month, 3 versus 5. We are committed to going after gun violators. That is, we work closely with our law enforcement partners to target gun violators. The data and human intelligence are extremely important in that endeavor, and it informs our deployment. So, obviously, it's working.
What about Queens North? There seems to be some sort of situation there. I think they're up 100% this year.
They're not up 100% in murders. We can talk about this afterwards, but
Again, you had a couple instances in Queens North. You had that triple homicide that was domestic related. That really kind of skewed the numbers up there.
Thoughts or explanations about why burglaries are down November to November?
I think it's a couple of things. First and foremost, I think it's the NCOs and the steady sector cops. And I think it's the community working with the police department. And I also think it's the Detective Bureau concentrating on patterns. We're identifying them very quickly, and we're going after the people committing those patterns, and I think that's extremely helpful. And there's just one more, so I guess it's 3 things. There's more technology out there, too. Video is really helping us. Yep, James?
This one really is about crime stat.
You can try to sneak it in if you want, no problem.
Can you talk a little bit about the rise in rapes, though?
Yeah, Lori can go into a little bit more detail, but just in general, this is something that we speak about every month, the increase in rapes. And we meet with the advocates 4 times a year. We're actually going to meet with them again in December. And it's an underreported crime. And I think we actually, the NYPD had a program. I don't know if you saw the advertising to help people feel more comfortable coming to us. It's Your Call advertising program that you saw that helped people come forward, and I think that's adding to the rise in rapes. Lori?
we are up 25% this year in rapes, 327, but we do have a 23% rise in reported rapes from previous years. So that is skewing the numbers a little bit. That's up from 17% the prior year.
So just to be clear, do we feel it's just because of greater reportage, or do we feel there actually could be still more of the problem?
We don't have any solid data to say what exactly it is. We believe that the stigma has been removed to a degree, so people are much more comfortable, especially in domestic situations, to come forward and report rapes that are happening now and that rapes that have happened in the past.
Tony?
For both you and the mayor, you've sort of grafted community policing, neighborhood policing, and crime initiatives together as working in tandem to bring the crime levels down. But we talked about this before. Criminologists seem to say this. We can't really say at this stage what if neighborhood policing is that effective in driving down crime. But I think you had said that in the past that you were going to do a study or commission a study to find out what the effect is.
And I didn't ask Tony to ask this question. We have the RAND Corporation is going to do an evaluation. It's a 5-part evaluation. The first part of that evaluation should be done in June of 2019. It should take, the whole evaluation should take about 2 years, but the first part should be available in June.
But let me add, look, No one here rests on their laurels. Everyone understands we have to earn this progress every single month. And I think the NYPD is doing an outstanding job achieving these things. But there's clearly a community element to this. There's no question in my mind. And I want to see an objective entity like the RAND Corporation do the systematic study. But I also can say sometimes in life you get a lot of evidence and a lot of common sense points you in the direction. We didn't have this neighborhood policing approach in the past. Once it was implemented fully, it clearly contributed to the constant reduction in crime. And you've sat here for a lot of these press conferences. Year after year, month after month, crime keeps going down. And it is the information that our officers are receiving from community members that's a piece of it. The question before of why are, on the burglaries, why is there progress? Well, when you talk about identifying the patterns, a lot of that is getting information from community members who are coming forward who might not have come forward in the past and are willing to be more helpful in ways we've always needed them to be, but that took building trust. So I hear it from officers and from commanding officers around the city. I hear it from community members that people are much more likely to come forward now, offer information, and that's leading to more crimes being solved more quickly.
In terms of the hate crimes, do you have any new strategies that you plan to use to try to reduce those numbers?
Yeah, and again, a lot of that has to do with working in the communities. And just in the 9/0, we've had an increase in anti-Semitic hate crimes. So we're working with the NCOs. We're putting more house of worship cars out there. We're putting the strategic response group in there to increase our presence. And everybody knows I spoke about that in my opening comments about our hate crimes task force. And if we need put additional people in there, even if only temporarily, we'll do that. We'll put seasoned investigators in there to make sure we make these arrests as quickly as possible. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, you work very closely with Chancellor Carranza and the DOE. My question is, do these statistics include the DOE statistics regarding students who are involved in crimes against each other or against teachers?
Let the experts talk about how they do their methodology. Clearly, any crime community is a crime, whether it's by a student or anyone else. But talk about how you...
Yeah. Any crime that's one of our 7 majors, and these are the ones that we count when we talk about ComSat, they are included in the numbers.
A potential hate crime-related question.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to ask, it's a 2-part question for the Commissioner. How seriously is the NYPD conducting its investigation of the thumbtack attack on the controversial bike lane in Sunnyside? And for the Mayor, would you consider that a hate crime when someone attempts to injure innocent people going about their business on a controversial bike lane that you supported against the community board in that neighborhood?
I'll go first. That's not classified as a hate crime, but it is, and I think, I'm a bicyclist. I think that's a particularly nasty crime. So, we're doing our best. I think it's about a week old now. The Detective Bureau is actively investigating it. So anybody that has any information about that, I mean, it was a couple blocks long, throughout hundreds of attacks. And not only you're going to flatten people's tires, but you're going to get people seriously injured. So we are taking it seriously, and there's an investigation by our Detective Bureau.
It's a crime, period, and it's going to be taken very seriously and acted on. Look, there's been controversies for sure over bike lanes, and under Vision Zero, I've been very clear about the fact that the bike lanes that we've added are for everyone's safety, for traffic calming, for reasons that support the Vision Zero philosophy and make us all safer. We've seen, protests and controversy. I can't remember anything like this before, so it's a little early to judge. It could be. Again, I want to be very clear. There's any number of possible motivations, and that's why we have full investigations. But the bottom line is it's unacceptable. It's a crime, and I can say this about the NYPD. If anyone's been watching lately, their ability to find people, particularly for the reasons we stated before, more video, more folks in communities willing to come forward. It's a rare situation where they don't find the person who did it, and I'm confident they will.
Any other crime questions? Yep. No, individual specific crimes, we're going to talk about that in a second.
I think you need to say crime stats.
Crime stats, thank
Crimes.
you, Mr. Mayor.
There you go. That'll help everyone.
Any confusion.
Yeah.
Any more crime statistic questions? All right, we'll go to a regular off topic here.
A follow-up on Rochester Amber Alert case. Can you talk a little bit about where you picked up Robert Gonzalez and Joanne Coates and where he is being held now?
All right, Chief Shea will speak about that. Dermot?
Good afternoon. So earlier this afternoon, we took into custody the individual Robert Gonzalez. We also located the young girl involved in the incident. The young girl is being checked out at a local hospital. The ultimate plan is to return her to her family, and we will proceed with Robert Gonzalez. He's being held on a kidnapping charge that emanates out of Rochester, New York, and that'll be worked out in the courts when he returns back to face those charges. I'm sorry? They were both located in Brooklyn sometime this morning, late this morning.
Yep, front row.
I wanted to ask a question about the drone program. Have you ever used, has the NYPD, not you personally, has the NYPD ever used drone before in a pilot like this? And I mean, I just trying to get a sense if this is the first time. I know it was announced today, but if this is the first time drones have been used in any kind of form of policing or investigations.
I think they've tested them, but that was, on NYPD property somewhere. But Terry, I can talk a little bit.
No, we've never used it out on the streets yet. It's been tested on the Taro properties where we were earlier today, but we're rolling it out today. It took us a long time to put together the policies that we're utilizing, and as of today, we can use them in certain instances.
What was the kind of the challenge in putting together the policy that you found?
Making sure that we weigh both privacy rights and safety concerns, so that we utilize them properly supervised. We had to make sure that our pilots were trained, FAA certified, so there's only limited people that can take it out. And then when we can use it, the situations, specific situations that we can utilize the drones at.
Yep.
Sure. What do you say to Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, who was outside City Hall today? Says it's 4.5 years, nothing's been done, with no end in sight for the police officers who used the chokehold that ended in Mr. Garner's death.
We have the first, not hearing, but there's on December 6th in the trial room. There's the first part of the proceedings. And we want to get this done. We do want to get this done. It'll be done sometime next year. Hopefully it will be concluded. I know it's been a long time. We just got the okay from DOJ this past, I think, August, and we're proceeding and we're working in conjunction. CCRB is prosecuting the case, and we're working in conjunction with them to make sure they do it as efficiently as possile'll.
What is Officer Pantaleo's current assignment?
He's on modified assignment, and he's working in Patrol Borough, Staten Island.
What is that when in?
He's got a desk job. Yep.
Commissioner Andy Byford from the MTA said he talked about he proposed sending his own people down to the subway to block turnstile jumpers backed by the police. What are your thoughts on that? Isn't that the NYPD's job?
Yeah, so I do have a lot of thoughts on that, being that I started out as a transit cop back in 1983. I think it's important to do as much as we can to control entry into the subway system. I think that's how we managed to reduce it to, I think it's 86 crimes a day, and there's about 6 million passengers a day. Eddie Delatorre, Chief Delatorre, will talk about the stats, what we've done so far this year. Our fare evasion efforts are increased. I do differ with Manhattan, the New York DA's office on one count, and that's the definition of who is a public safety threat. So when we do lock somebody up on a case-by-case basis, we do have a discussion with the DA's office to make sure that they are prosecuted, and we're successful about 50% of the time.
Okay, so in fact, last month, the month of November, we show a 25% increase in contacts at the gate. Contacts would include arrests, C summonses, which are criminal court summonses, and tabs. Last year at this time, we had 4,971 total contacts at the gate. This year we have 6,248, that equaling a 25% increase. So what's happening now is, because of our new policy, officers are free to make more arrests and spend more time on a platform instead of getting tied up with other arrests. And what we do is we attempt to identify the most persistent offenders that we feel will have the greatest impact on the public safety for those in the system.
So just, it's 6 crimes a day in the subway system with about 6 million riders. Yep, the back row.
This question is regarding the reintroduction of the POST Act, Public Oversight of Surveillance Technology. Last year, the council put forth this bill to have a little bit of oversight and, I guess, discussion about the potential use and acquisition of surveillance technology by the department. I guess drones might have been one of the items that they would like to review and have debate about. Do either you or the mayor have a stance on that bill? I know last year both the police department and the mayor's office was opposed to it.
I know we did a lot of work with the council to make sure that we could come up with a compromise. John, I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit.
Don't be too excited, John.
So I testified before the council on that bill the first time. We were shown that bill by Councilman Gorodnick. We had a long discussion about a lot of the things that we would like to see changed in that to make it workable. When the bill eventually was brought up, none of those changes were in there. We have said that we're willing to look at any version of it that addresses our concerns. To put make a long story short, the concern was there is equipment that is used by undercover officers in dangerous situations against serious narcotics violators, organized crime figures, terrorist suspects, that there is a very good reason to keep the nature of which confidential. And the way that it was written very broadly said any technology that was capable of recording voice or video needed to be described and the limits of its capabilities and so on. And it just didn't seem reasonable for the safety of our people who are out there trying to protect New Yorkers. We'll look at anything that they come up with and reevaluate it.
And before we finalized our policy, we did work with the city council and we did work with civil rights advocates to make sure it was an inclusive way forward.
Questions for Touche. On the 9/0, there were a few different attacks on Jewish victims, including the child in the 9/0, another man who got his hat knocked off and he was punched in the 9/0, and then another man in, I'm sorry, I forget the exact precinct, it was in Crown Heights, who also got punched while walking to synagogue. I'm wondering if you have any updates on that. And then, sorry, another question is if you have any updates on that 123 and the woman who was found burned. I know you're trying to piece together some of the last days of before she died.
I'll start with the hate crimes. The 9/0 has been a focal point. You forgot one. We had the incident yesterday where the Catholic Church had the statues knocked down. That was also in the 9/0. That case, we have put a picture out. It's a very clear picture. I would expect an arrest. We ask for anyone with any information on that subject to please call Crime Stoppers. The church. The incident where there's 2 adult males dressed in traditional garb standing and a male walks up and punches them. Within the last hour, we have apprehended that male. His name is Enrique Gireno. He's a male Hispanic, 32 years of age. Again, that's within the last 60 minutes, so we'll get you the information on the appropriate charges, but I'm happy to report that that is a case that hate crimes has now successfully closed. We have an adequate number of detectives in hate crimes. I will say that we have, just this week, pulled resources to make sure that everything that can and should be done is being done, and I'm confident that it is. The men and women of our hate crimes task force, day in and day out, do their job admirably. They have tremendous success, and I'm very confident that together with the patrol response, with the investigative resources that we're bringing to bear, we will really turn the tide here in what we're seeing. 1, 2, 3. Not much new to report from what was said last week with the incident with the female that was found DOA in the park. From the time that she was reported missing to the time that she was found, I said that we were trying to close that. I believe it was a 7-day gap. We have tracked her from Staten Island at some point, taking a bus to Brooklyn. She returns a short time later to Staten Island via bus, we believe. We have her on the block this whole time alone. We have her on the block of the park. I don't have the dates off the top of my head, but it all coincides with our timeline, and that's where we lose her. And to my understanding, we do not have a cause of death yet, a final cause of death from the ME, but everything that I said last week still holds true at this point.
Sorry, just to clarify, you said that she takes the bus to Brooklyn and then back to Staten Island. Is that on the last day she was seen?
That's on the last day that she was seen, yes.
Right before she was found?
No, if you recall, and again, I haven't looked at those dates today, she is reported missing. We believe that on the date she's reported missing, she takes some money from her grandmother, a small amount of money. That same day, she takes a bus. This is corroborated through electronic records, through video. She gets on the bus, she's alone, she takes the bus to Brooklyn. She spends a very short period, I'm talking minutes, not hours, in Brooklyn, and gets back on the bus heading to Staten Island.
Let's do one or two more on police topics, please.
Chief, there's a hate crime incident in the 7-0 last month, I believe, where a woman in the Church Avenue subway station was stabbed and called a racial epithet. Do you have any news on that case, where that investigation stands?
Not closed with an arrest yet. This is the incident where the woman was walking up the train stairs. Unprovoked, we have an individual come from behind and attacks her, winds up stabbing her several times in the back with what we believe is a screwdriver. Something new is that we have recovered that screwdriver. In this incident, the woman initially did not even realize that she was stabbed. She went home, declined medical aid at the scene, went home, then had some difficulty breathing when she was laying in her bed at home, and then the ball really started getting rolling on our side. We have put a sketch out of that individual. We still ask anyone for any information. A bystander intervened, and we're thankful for the intervention of the bystander. When the bystander intervened, the attacker broke off the attack and went back down the platform. It's unknown definitively whether the attacker got on a train, the next train, or went out the other end of that platform. We are waiting for some forensics still to get back from the lab regarding the screwdriver in this case. We're working some leads in terms of the sketch, but at this point, no arrest.
When did you recover the screwdriver, and what kind of forensics are you looking to take off it?
Anytime we recover an item such as that, we'd be looking for fingerprints, we'd be looking for DNA. I don't have the date of that.
Last call, guys.
John?
Chief, earlier you put out a video of an assault in the Bronx. Here's the man who stole the victim's headphones. I mean, were they strangers, and was he just stealing? Was this a robbery of headphones?
Yeah, I think it's a very small picture, but it's behind me here. And there is a video. I don't know if we're going to play the video or at least a small clip of it. Very disturbing video. This is on 183rd Street, right on the 4652 border. I believe it's the 46 side. You see an individual leaning against a van, and he is beaten pretty bad by this individual. I think this is extremely clear video, and I'm very confident we will make an arrest on this. I do not have a definitive motive yet. I understand the headphones down, but what this was over still needs a little work to see what this fight was over. This individual winds up going to the hospital, the victim, and is at present in a coma.
Unbelievable.
Really senseless attack.
David, you had a question?
I do. So the NYPD works closely with OEMs on emergency
questions in a moment.
Yeah,
he'll be here.
Circling back on the Amber Alerts, what led police to the girl and the...
I think we've proven over and over, our regional fugitive task force, our men and women, our warrants division are very good at what they do. And in any case, where we need to find somebody quickly, we have a lot of tools at our disposal. I'm not going to get into exactly what techniques we used, but in a short period of time after getting this Amber Alert, working with Rochester PD and others, thankfully we were able to quickly apprehend this individual before the girl was injured.
Thank you. Just one more. Probably I'm going to regret this, but one more.
And Police Commissioner, last week you said that you and the Police Commissioner were meeting. We're going to discuss the incident at the Staten Island.
Yes, we did.
Given you guys have watched it, what is your reaction? Do you think there needs to be any changes to security protocol or the people who need security at the ferry? And are you confident that this review is going to produce fair and objective results, given that it's being led by two of the security entities that lead security at the
Well, let me start and pass to Commissioner. We, in fact, met not long after you last asked the question and looked at the video together. Obviously an unacceptable situation. And you saw the announcement that was made that security at not only the Staten Island terminal of the Staten Island ferry, but also the Manhattan terminal and on the ferries themselves was going to be reviewed fully by the NYPD to determine what needs to happen going forward. I have absolute faith in the ability of NYPD to determine what we need to ensure there's consistent security and safety at those two terminals and on the ferries, and we'll take whatever appropriate actions, and that's going to happen very quickly.
Chief Waters is leading the review. He met with DOT. I think he met with MSA also. As the mayor said, it's absolutely unacceptable the way it was handled by all three agencies, actually. You know, we train our people with suspicious packages. This protocol wasn't followed. It is disturbing, but that's going to, you know, every time something is brought to our attention, good changes happen for the good, and I'm glad we got a chance to see that, and we'll make sure that ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Do you think independent investigators should in fact
No, this is I mean, this is what we do. I mean, this is what counterterrorism does. We do this better than anybody in the United States. So I have all the confidence in Chief Waters that the review will be done right, and the protocol, the proper protocol will be established.
Why don't we take a quick break here?
Wait, just let her finish.
yeah.
Go ahead. Say again?
Did that incident have anything to do with the firing of OEM Commissioner Joe?
No, totally unrelated matter. Okay, let's turn over now. Yep.